Salam and hi everyone. I hope you're doing well. Since last Thursday we have no class because of the Malaysia Day, right? So I'm going to replace it with a pre-recorded lecture for our lecture 3, which is project monitoring and controlling. Okay, so you have go through the pre-recorded lectures, and then at the end of the slide we have slide on the activity 3, which is a crossword puzzle to test your knowledge on this topic. Please complete it and you have to submit it, okay, in the Google Classroom, right? We are going to discuss the answer in next class. Okay, in this topic, project monitoring and controlling, you're going to learn about the introduction. Okay, we have a definition and purpose, and then we are going to look why project monitoring is important. Next, we are going to look into how to implement project monitoring and controlling, and then what are the best practice for monitoring and controlling. And last part is test your knowledge, where I have prepared one activity, which is the crossword puzzle. Okay, so part 1, okay, introduction to project monitoring and controlling. Okay, so the introduction about the project monitoring and controlling. Okay, so the project monitoring and controlling process could include the processes to ensure that the project is managed and executed according to the project plan, which is your proposal. Okay, so you have presented your proposal, so you have to make sure that you followed everything mentioned in your proposal. But if you cannot follow, you have to actually update in your final report. Okay, so it is actually one of the key ingredient in the success of project. So in this case, okay, for your project, we will have for as one of the project controlling activities, where you have to submit your progress check in week 8 and week 11. I will brief on that next. Okay, in the next slide. So question related to project monitoring and controlling. So what actually you have to actually ask about your project. Okay, so first is actually how is the current status of your project communicated to your organization management team in your team. Okay, so you have to actually communicate each other, right? So how do you know that what's happening is in the project, okay? And then how do you know the current status of your project? When you decide to allow the project to continue as is or with no changes being introduced, so whatever mentioned in your proposal, if you can follow your proposal, then you can just follow your proposal and the timeline. Okay, and then if, let's say for example, you cannot follow the timeline that you have set in your proposal, then you can do the changes lah, and then you have to report in the final report. Okay, and then next question, how do you ensure your clients know the project status, and then how do you introduce change or corrective plan in your project based on the project current status. All right. Okay, so we just have some let's just have review lah on the project management life cycle. Okay, so actually now we are in the education phase, so you can see in the blue color, right? So we have done our week 1 and 2, which is the initiation phase, where you have done your project initiation sheet. Okay, and then week 3, 4 and 5 we are working on the proposal, we are doing the planning and all. Okay, and then we are now in the education phase, where you start your you have to start your project, executing your project. So you have basically 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have actually 6 weeks for you to execute your project. Okay, and then we have the last phase is we have the project closure, where we have to close the project. Okay. Okay, next. So let's have a look on the definition and purpose of project monitoring. The project control is a project management function that involve comparing actual performance with planned performance and taking appropriate corrective action that will yield the desired outcome in the project when significant difference exists. Okay, so you can see here, project monitoring and control include tracking, reviewing, and managing the progress and performance. So meaning that we have to actually, the aim is actually we want to keep track on the progress and the performance of the project along with managing changes. So it means that whatever activities that you have done, not necessarily to be maybe exactly followed your project plan. So but if there is any changes, okay, you have to actually keep track on that, and then you have to report to your project teams or your project stakeholders. Okay, so some output of this project monitoring and controlling phases. So there will be change request form, okay, work performance reports, update to the project management plans, and update to the proposal. So meaning that it depends on your project team. Okay, if let's say for example you're working in a real working experience environment, okay, you have to actually ask your client to fill out the change request form. So let's say they want to have any changes, they have to fill out that change request form. Then you can actually do you have to calculate back all the project costs, right? But in our case, okay, you just need to actually, you don't have to update your project proposal, okay, you just need to update in your final report, okay. And then you also have your progress checking, okay, your progress report check in week 8 and week 11. So that is the output lah for your project monitoring and controlling phases. Moving on, okay, so what are the purpose of project monitoring and control? So, or you can say, in other words, PMC lah. Okay, so PMC helps in developing and understanding the project progress, okay, that help in taking appropriate action in order to control the deviation from the plans. Okay, so monitoring and control keeps project on track. The right control can play a major part in completing the project on time. The data gathered also lets project manager make informed decisions. So they can take advantage of opportunities, make changes, and avoid crisis management issues. So let's say, for example, in week 11, okay, you have some issues on your project. Maybe you cannot meet the your project objective. So what is your action? What is your corrective measure plan? So what you have to do? Okay, what is your backup plan? So you have to report back to all your project team and then your project stakeholders, right? So moving on. So project management process. Okay, where is actually the project monitoring and controlling processes phase? Okay, so actually project monitoring and controlling, unlike the other phases, is done from the beginning until the end of the project. Okay, so you can see here actually, okay, we have 4 phases, but the monitoring and controlling process, you have to actually do it at the beginning, starting from the initiation phase. Okay, so the project monitoring and controlling during the planning. So what you have to do during your project planning, your proposal making. Okay, so if your project meets the plan, okay, you can continue as a plan. But if different from the plan, you have to take corrective action and identify causes. Okay, and then you have to amend plan and change education of plan. So that's why we have a draft proposal. So from that draft proposal, we amend our draft proposal and then we change our plan. Okay. Right, so next part is actually why is project monitoring and controlling is important. Okay, the first point, okay, why? Because we want to align to the project progress to the plan. So monitoring project progress will help you assess if the project has remained aligned to the original plan. So helps a better control in the quality. Right, so in our case, that's why we're having a Gantt chart, we're having timeline. So Gantt chart actually help you to actually on track. Okay, so and then the second point is the stakeholder engagement. Okay, monitoring improve stakeholder engagement. So if an issue or risk is detected too late, so the project sponsor is often powerless to act. So with regular report and clear metric, it's easy for you to work closely with your sponsor to address roadblocks. So as for example, maybe you have to ask lah whether does project spending remain on track. So let's say for example you have any spending lah, so that is a very, I think, the most important part, which is the project spending, okay, the project budgeting and all. Okay, so the third point is the customer satisfaction. So open communication and feedback increase the final deliverable to meet expectation, thus deeming the project a success. So let's say you have a real customer, let's say you have a project developing a video content or maybe developing a website. So actually you have to maybe have a weekly progress report to show your progress, to show your performance. So from that you can get feedback and then we can produce a better quality of project. Okay, so point number 4 is for the team motivation and accountability. So the motivation of your team will rise and fall during the project execution. So by taking progress and the completion of the key milestone, the team will remain connected to the goals of the project and the importance of their individual contribution. So that's why you, let's say you are the project leader or you are the project manager, you have to actually structure the employee roles and responsibilities. So you have to make sure that everyone doing their work. Okay, so maybe you can use any software, any communications tool, like for example maybe you can use Trello to keep track the updates lah, okay, to get updates. And maybe you can have a weekly meeting or maybe daily meeting. Alright, so point number 5, managing external vendors. Okay, communication is the critical to any project, so particularly when working with external vendors and suppliers. So monitoring of these performance resources will help you meet key deadlines, meet the budgets, manage the budgets, and account for unexpected delay in the project schedule. Okay, and the last one is continuous learning and improvement. So monitoring present an ideal opportunity for continuous learning and improvement for both project planning and executions. So once your project is finished, it is vital to document lesson learned. So that's why in the final report, okay, I will brief you maybe in week 8 or week 9 about the final report, where we have the retrospective, where we have to do the lesson learned. Okay, maybe what are the key points, what are the summary from or maybe what are the things that you can improve for your future project. Okay, so it's an easier task if you have recorded challenges and solution to the project during the execution and monitoring phases. Even though for your project monitoring and controlling, you have to actually record everything. Okay, you have to document it in the basically is your project progress. Okay. Okay, moving on. Okay, part 4. Okay, how to implement project monitoring and controlling. Okay. So monitoring the project progress, so what actually you have to report. Okay, so regardless of the size of the project team, it is impossible for the project manager to understand the fully the project progress of the project. So this include you have to update on the completion of the activities. Okay, right, any unexpected delays to activities. Okay, any new activities that were not previously foreseen, any new dependency not previously identified, right, and any issue. So this one I will prepare a template for you, okay, for the progress check in week 8 and week 11. Okay, so let's have a look on the details what you have to report lah. Okay, where you have to write in your progress report. So basically you have to put the project plan. Okay, so you have to put the corrective plan, and then you have to put the measurement. Okay, the actual result, resources used, work done, project issues, and any issues lah that you want to report. Okay, so you don't have to worry for this one. Okay, where I have prepared a template lah for the progress report. Okay, and then this just for information. Okay, so your progress report should be submitted at the end of the week, Friday, in week 8 and week 11. Okay, so progress report 1 you have to submit to me in on the 1st October, and then progress report 2 on the 22nd October. So this progress report 1 and 2, okay, the weightage is actually 5%. So means that 10% lah for the progress report. Okay, so for the progress report 1, you have to actually report your activities from week 1 to actually week 7 and 8, something like that. And then for week progress report 2 is for week 8 onwards. Okay, alright, so this is the example. It is a template that I have prepared. Okay, where I will upload in the, you can see in the Google Classroom. Okay, under week 6. Okay, so you have to actually report the completion of activities, okay, starting from week 8 until week 1 until week 8. Okay, so let's say for example here you have successfully created promotional material for the project, and then you have to include the detailed example of your promotional material, such as a social media platform here. Okay, maybe if let's say you feel that you don't want to put it here, you can just put a chat draft link here. So whatever task, deliverable, meeting, communication, decision, you have to put it here, or any incomplete or pending activities also you have to report in your progress report. Okay, and then maybe you have any overall budget spend here. Okay, and then overall total commission or maybe participant. So this is actually your objective. Okay, so maybe you have to state the total commission or profit sale you achieve at this point, and you have to state the number of your Instagram followers or clients, or maybe you can state your number of participants interest to join. So basically this is reflect to your project objective for this part. Okay, for this one. Okay, and then you also have to actually report your real, this is not estimation, your real project risk again, and then your issues and your mitigation plan. Okay, so again this should be from week 1 until week 8 lah. So means any risk happen, okay, anything you have to report in this progress report check. Okay, so these are the example. Maybe you have some issues with the stakeholder management, and then the risk is miscommunication with the stakeholders. Okay, and then what are the mitigation plans? So you update your stakeholders and or the client with the project requirement. Okay, and then you conduct a face-to-face meeting with the stakeholders. Okay, so this is the example. I will be free more later on in week 8 when you have to submit it. Okay. Right. Alright, so this is the last part of the lecture, which is part 5. We're going to look into the best practice for project monitoring and controlling. Okay. Okay, so what are the first practice. Okay, so establish a formal documentation. Yeah, we did this. Okay, so we have actually the first our formal documentation is a proposal, and then we do have a minute meetings, and then we have individual logbook, we have progress project progress status. So these are the checklist lah. Okay, so when you are doing the real project, make sure you have all these documentation. So maybe for the creative work, maybe we need like storyboard, okay, something like that, a script, writing, okay, documentation. Okay, so writing down document discussion and decision, okay, at the appropriate place, and establish a formal documentation procedure for meetings serve as a valuable reference point on which control rests. Okay, so such documentation help to resolve issues of miscommunication or misunderstanding among the project teams, and become the best way to communicate changes to the project scopes and other parameters that occurs after the fixation of the plan and during the course of the project. So it also helps establish the change request process. So let's say, for example, as maybe you have a miscommunication, so maybe you have to report in your project progress report, and then so you have to discuss among your team, and then maybe you can solve it, right? Okay, so second point is proactivity. So make sure you provide a proactive checklist approach to solve issues. So the best control mechanism are those which adopt a proactive approach to solve issues and problems so that arise during the project execution. So just for example, it can relate to budget, scope, time, quality, and human resources. Okay, so failing to resolve the issues owing to the lack of time or other routine work lay the seeds of the project going out of control. So if immediate resolution is not possible, the issue needs documentation and incorporation in the next project review meeting. Okay, so here I'm giving you the checklist approach, so where you can have proactivity activities, okay, where we can have a discussion meeting, asking for opinion, feedback, okay, observation, action item, proaction, decision making, ability to make changes, and then you have include in your proposal and as well in your project progress report, okay, the real project risk, issue, and mitigations plan. So these are the example of the proactivities activities lah. Okay, so what are the proactive things you have to apply in your project monitoring and controlling phases? Okay, so the next point is you have to actually identify your project risk issues and mitigation plan. So there are 4 ways to handle risk. So this is your project. So what are the 4 ways? So we have actually 4 technique lah. First one is to avoid, second is to mitigate, the third one is to transfer, and then the last one is just to accept it. So let's have a look on the first point, which is avoid. So the best thing you can do with the risk is to avoid it. So it means that you have list down all your project risks in your proposal, but if you cannot avoid it, you have to actually accept it. So rather than you can just accept it, okay, where you can just avoid, when you can't avoid okay, your risk, mitigate or transfer it, then you have to accept. So these are the last step. Okay, when you have if let's say any risk happen to you, these are the last step. You can just accept it. So before you accept it, you can mitigate. So what is actually mitigate? So mitigate is you have to actually taking some sort of action that will cause it to do as a little damage to your project as possible. So it means that you have to find solution. Okay, so you have to try to solve it. Okay, so that is actually mitigation plan. So that's why you have in your proposal the solution. That's why in your progress report check you have the mitigation plan solution. Okay, and the third way is you can transfer. So one of the effective way to deal with the risk is actually to pay someone else to accept it for you. So that's why we have outsourcing the project. So that's why, because we don't want to do it. Let's say for example you are from the maybe a business company, so your core is not a creative work, so you outsource your project to the other parties so that they can do the work. So it means that you are transferring the risk to the other parties, okay, organization. So the last step, then you can just actually accept. If you cannot do this, all right, you have to accept it. So normally when you want to transfer your risk to the other, okay, you have to maybe need to pay. Okay, so so it's depending on your budget as well. Okay, all right. Okay, so in this slide, I'm giving you the sample of project risk issues and mitigation plan. So I think I also put this into your project report template. So let's say for example here you can report any risk lah. Let's say you have this one should be real risk, okay, because this one you are going to compile this in your final report. Okay, let's say you're having communication problem, okay, miscommunication with your team members. So you have to put the details of the risk, and then how did you solve that, and then how is there any supporting documents, or maybe you need maybe external party, or maybe your supervisor to solve it, right? Or maybe you need me as your advisor to solve, just in case lah. Okay, right? So you have to report here, you have to list down in this table. Okay, so this table we are going to compile it and put into your final report. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so the last point for the best practice, actually, of course, the attitude of your project management staff. Okay, so the project team approach report. Okay, so your team should be honest, so they should know the objective of your project, and then should be accurate, up to date, and timely. So from this, how can I actually measure your attitude? How can I actually assess your attitude, actually based on my observation, and as well as your individual logbook. Okay, so that's why your team, okay, you have to fill up your individual logbook and your progress check report. So but for the progress check report is actually you have to just you have to produce one progress check report. Okay, but for the logbook is individual, right? Conclusion. Right, so the project monitoring and control basically involve the tracking of changes in agreed or planned activity. So just a recap lah. So the main purpose of project monitoring control is to alert the relevant stakeholders about the issue that are causing problem and may cause problem in the future. So here in our case, you want to alert your team, you want to alert your advisor, or maybe you have your any external stakeholders, okay, involved in your project, so you have to alert them. Okay, and of course, if you have the real client, so this is the main thing lah, why we have controlling and monitoring and controlling. Okay, so the project management team continuously monitors and control project work to decide if corrective or preventive action are needed. So what the best course of action is and when to act, right? So with that, I think that's all for our lecture for this topic. Okay, and then let's move on to the next slide. Okay, which is the part 6 activity. So I want you to complete this test your knowledge crossword puzzle, so individually. So you have to download the Excel file, okay, and then you have to answer it in the Excel, right? And please make sure you complete it before our class lah next week. So this is a crossword puzzle. So basically you have to go back on the lecture, the recorded version, so the notes, okay, all the points in your slide, okay, right, and then you have to submit it. So we will discuss the answer in class next week. Okay, so with that, thank you guys for watching. All right, stay safe and take care. Bye bye.